Momoshiki has a shinjutsu ability that most people are not aware of, and this comes off the bat of some of Ikimoto's interviews, as although shinjutsu is something that was brought up in chapter 75 of the Boruto manga, we are slowly starting to see the introduction of shinjutsu being brought to the main stage of the Boruto series, and the premise of the story moving on forward. So to first discuss what exactly is Momoshiki's Shinjutsu ability that he possesses, we must first begin with what exactly Shinjutsu is. As we started off the series with Chakra as our power system, Chakra is something that could be explained through the science of the universe, as people had a clear understanding of how Chakra work. We clearly see this in the beginning of the Naruto series, where in Naruto Part 1, we got various different diagrams of how exactly chakra works, how much chakra a person must use for certain ninjutsus, defining chakra control, and we've seen different applications of how it can be used to benefit a ninja. We have various different elements when it comes to wind style, fire style, lightning style, earth style, and the introduction of various different Kekkei. This part of the power system that we were introduced to when it came to Naruto, which was chakra, was something that could be explained through science. However, we have reached a point in the Boruto series and the Naruto series combined where different powers in the series, especially through the introduction of Otsutsuki's, it ceases to make sense, where science can no longer explain these phenomenons, and this point is Shinjutsu, the domain of gods. And while characters like Momoshiki possess a lot of various different abilities, and since they were described as these gods, we had the perception that most of their abilities were just Shinjutsu abilities, since they are basically these gods as Otsutsuki's. However, when Ikimoto did answer one of the questions related to a Shinjutsu ability that Kashin Koji has, and in comparison to Momoshiki, it left a lot of a stump, as this is what he says when he is posed this question. When talking with Amato, Boruto catches a glimpse of the future. Was this connected to Kashin Koji's prescience? And this is what Ikimoto says. That was actually due to Momoshiki, who has the ability to see pieces of the future surrounding himself. It does resemble prescience in a way, but it is not an established Shinjutsu, and only has a portion of prescience functionality. This is obviously the way better translation than what I previously shown, which is why now, after doing a little bit more research, everything does make a lot more sense. Momoshiki has the ability to see the future, and due to it being the first time that we have seen a character in the Boruto series possess its ability to see the future, and then next we had a character like Kashin Koji who was introduced with the ability to also see the future, and since that was named a Shinjutsu, everybody believed that Momoshiki's ability was also a Shinjutsu. However, that is not the case. Prescience is a Shinjutsu with more functionalities, as we can see multiple different paths. While Momoshiki can still see the future, it is not actually a Shinjutsu, and later on in this video, we'll reveal exactly why. Momoshiki's ability to see the future revolves around himself, and that's going to be a key idea to latch on for everything that we're going to discuss in this video. As at first, a lot of people, like me, were left a little bit confused even replying to this in the comment section of the video, but there is a lot more clarity that we can find. So let's first start off by discussing what exactly Momoshiki's Shinjutsu actually is. And this is based off the current information that we have, as none of the abilities that Momoshiki has necessarily been named Shinjutsu, but based off the description of Shinjutsu that we have come to understand, we can clearly deduce that this is clearly a Shinjutsu ability. And that Shinjutsu is Momoshiki's ability to stop time and affect the physical world while he is still dead. This is an ability that we have seen Momoshiki use, and we don't really know much about the conditions and if he can spam this ability or not, or it is an ability that he can only use when he's endangered. We don't know the conditions. However, with this ability, it allows Momoshiki to cheat death by not only using the karma and obviously having a chance to come back, but also due to the fact that he can affect time and stop it, basically allowing him to do whatever he needs possible to ensure that he doesn't die. And this is an ability that is exclusive to Momoshiki, as when it was first introduced, it didn't make much sense, as why didn't all the other Otsusukis do so? For Kaguya, why didn't Kaguya do so to at least implant her karma on somebody else, or even attempt so? One could say that Kishimoto and Ikimoto didn't think about that when they first introduced Kaguya, as they probably didn't think about the karma, but when we look at other Otsusukis that were introduced after, like Ishiki, why didn't Ishiki do so, if it's an ability that all Otsusukis possess? This leads me to believe that it is an ability that Momoshiki only has, which means that Momoshiki is the only one who has the Shinjutsu and the only one who can cheat death in this way by stopping time and affecting the physical world, as although you could say time was stopped and oh, Momoshiki didn't end up killing anyone, but we still saw him affect the physical world, the actual reality, by giving Boruto his karma, and this clearly took place after he was destroyed and basically sent to the stars after the massive Rasengan. So this Shinjutsu ability makes Momoshiki very hard to kill. And a lot of Momoshiki's abilities, now that we come to realize it, and it is the reason why, as of right now, he is the only Otsutsuki that is technically still alive, it is due to the fact that most of his abilities center around himself, and it allows him to cheat death in ways that even most Otsutsukis can't, and make him a very hard opponent to kill, making Momoshiki basically unkillable. And this all stems from his personal desire that he will not die, and even if he does, he will end up utilizing death for his further growth. He personifies the will of the Otsutsukis. As because with a lot of people, death is what completes a man. It is the closing chapter in your story. It is what allows you to pass on your legacy to the generations to come, doing your work and allowing those who come after you to do their work too. However, for Momoshiki instead, he doesn't view it in the same way. In fact, he uses death for himself and uses it to create his own advantage. But he also refuses to perish, as we have literally seen. Momoshiki refuses to admit that he will die. Ishiki did have this anger when it came to him dying, but in the end, just like we have seen with a lot of different characters, he passed on his legacy to Code and let Code be the one to do so. While Momoshiki, he did everything in his power, even preventing himself from being able to come back and turning Boruto into the Momoshiki that we already know. He gave up on that idea to still ensure that he will still live. As for him, it doesn't matter if he comes back in his original form or he just has control of Boruto's body. As long as he is alive, he still has an advantage and he can still go forward through his goal. This attitude of his is reflected through most and almost all of his abilities, as a lot of people do know this method that has been discussed when it comes to the Mangekyo Sharingan and how its abilities are linked to the user's personal experience. But the same can be said for the Rinnegan, as one who awakens the Rinnegan for themselves is granted a personalized ability that goes along with it. Nagato clearly doesn't count, as he was given the Rinnegan that was actually Madara's by Obito, so his abilities doesn't come with this. But if we do end up checking everybody else who has the Rinnegan, you would end up seeing that they have one personalized ability that complements their personal experience and what they have lived through. For Madara, everybody thought he died after Hashirama's death. However, Madara lived in the shadows and was plotting even while most people believed he was dead, giving him that perfect time to come up with his plans. Just like with the Limbo clones who are in the shadows and other people cannot see them, but they can act upon physical reality. With Sasuke, it is pretty straightforward. Sasuke is constantly switching his ways and goals. First, he wanted revenge on Itachi. Then he wants to avenge Itachi, wanting to destroy the village. But after that, we see that Sasuke wants to become Hokage. This is reflected through Sasuke's ability, as we see that his ability grants him the power to switch with things and people, as this is what his personal experience has always been, as he is constantly switching ideas, ways of thinking, and adapting to his current scenario and his current ideals. Just like his Rinnegan ability, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, allows him to do the same. For Kaguya, she awakened the Rinnegan by traveling to another world, bringing the Ten-Tails alongside her and colonizing it, and ate the divine chakra fruit. This is why her ability stemmed from this idea of allowing herself to transport the things around her to a different dimension, which has environmental effects that she can use to aid her in her battle. Just like as an Otsutsuki, she colonized different places and was the only Otsutsuki to actually bear children and live with other humans, matching this ideology of a colonizer. With Momoshiki, his Rinnegan ability allows him to steal people's ninjutsu and fire it back, just like we see with his own personality, where he even uses Boruto's ability and some of his fighting styles to fight against various people, using the Vanishing Rasengan. And even during the fight between Boruto and Momoshiki, we saw Momoshiki literally copy Naruto and Boruto's Rasengan. He looked at it for a couple seconds and then he made one of his own. This reflects and could potentially hint that Momoshiki with other planets and civilizations was a lot more hands-on, learning abilities for the people that he fed to the divine tree, and he ultimately ended up using those abilities for himself, which allowed him to have better abilities, whether it be ninjutsu, genjutsu, or even taijutsu that he could use to subjugate other planets and grant him more control over his own life, as he has displayed the most abilities, whether they be named or not named, compared to any other Otsutsuki that we have personally seen. And this is where, after seeing all of this and how Momoshiki's abilities are a reflection of his own character, Momoshiki's ability to see the future makes a lot more sense. So first of all, where exactly did that ability come from, since we know that it is not a Shinjutsu? And the simple answer is that it comes from the Byakugan, as we literally see a panel of Boruto with the Byakugan allowing him to see the future. And Boruto's Byakugan, as we know, Boruto did not awaken the Byakugan previously, and the only times we have seen Boruto have the Byakugan in his eye is when he was tapping into True Essence Karma, which does mean that the Byakugan, just as Ikimoto is saying, is not an ability that stems from Boruto, but an ability that stems from Momoshiki and Momoshiki's Byakugan. And with that, Boruto can see the future with those eyes and with that Byakugan. What's quite interesting though is that we have not seen this application of the Byakugan be used by anybody else. This does end up telling me that similarly to abilities like the Mangekyo Sharingan and abilities from the Rinnegan, this could be a personalized based ability that is granted to Momoshiki and Momoshiki alone. We didn't really see that with other characters like Kaguya or Ishiki, which is something I will definitely grant, and we didn't clearly see abilities like that when it came to Hyuga clan members. So maybe there is a Otsutsuki base that you must have to have your own personalized abilities, and with characters like Ishiki, maybe if we look a little bit further we could see it, or simply they didn't have enough screen time to display those abilities. But this does tell me that Momoshiki's Byakugan has his own personalized ability that allows him to see the future. And going into Momoshiki's character a little bit more, I really find it interesting that what was pointed out to be a difference between Momoshiki's ability and Prescience is the fact that he can see futures surrounding himself and himself alone. This does grant a little bit more credence to the theory that Momoshiki potentially let Boruto kill him because he saw a future where he ended up being in Boruto's body, and it granted him more strength, as we have personally described regarding Momoshiki's power. Momoshiki is somebody who uses death itself to his own advantage and has abilities that allow him to do so, with his Shinjutsu that I believe to be the time-stopping ability that allows him to still enact his will even while dead in the physical world. So with this ability, it makes Momoshiki even more unstoppable, as Momoshiki has an ability to see the future, where using his Byakugan he can start making moves that are better for him and leads towards a future that he himself is capable of having more influence over. And the reason why this ends up making a lot more sense, why he couldn't predict things like Sarada and the way that she would act, it is due to the fact is that he is not necessarily seeing Sarada, he is seeing his own future. And his future is only based off his current understanding. And as we do know, the Otsutsukis do not understand love. So due to the fact that he could see the future but could not comprehend love, he could not make the best move in the chess game due to the fact that he didn't understand another factor at play, which is love. The love that brought Sasuke to save Boruto, while Boruto was in the verge of using his own karma. A lot of people do end up missing that point, but that was the moment in which Boruto would have killed his friends due to Momoshiki and would have caused Boruto to despair, on a level in which Boruto himself could not come back. And it was using that very own fact that he, Momoshiki, planned on taking control. And what's quite interesting is that now Momoshiki is silent, and Momoshiki still has the same abilities that we have discussed in this video, the same ability to see the future. And it's with that ability to see the future that we can see Momoshiki now taking in more information, find a future surrounding himself in which now he is able to take full control, where he won't leak information to Boruto due to their minds converging, and is going into this eternal silence, seeing the future but not thinking about anything, making sure that Boruto will not see it. And that's why you have to watch this video right here as I describe what exactly Momoshiki's plan could truly be.